Hey, welcome. Push to
Welcome.
Shout 63. After much delay, much
Much delay.
tribulation,
Uh,
we're here,
an
finally.
unprecedented gap in push to shout broadcasting. Uh,
The
now we're
long
back.
history of Push to Shout broadcasts.
We just wanted, we wanted our triumphant return to be a big deal. So we gave you a little
And
bit of, time to
I want
stew.
to say this quick so that people who just listen to like the first 5 minutes get it. Uh, the idea is that Thursdays are going to be the days we do this.
For the
So,
foreseeable future.
not making promises that it'll never be different from that, but I mean, if you're looking for the night that we're going to be podcasting, it's probably going to be Thursday.
So we'll see how long we keep to that. In the
I
meantime,
think it should hold.
we've been about a week and a half or so without a podcast. So there's a lot to talk about. We'll get right to it. I'm Skip, and this is Mike, by the way, in case you were wondering. And let's just start out with you and see what have you been up to, Mike?
Yeah, okay, so for the long delay, I haven't been doing many new things. I haven't watched much. I've been playing more Witcher. I've been really liking that. I've been playing more Lisa, replaying it, which as I keep replaying it, it's becoming clear, like, how much more of a game it is than something like Undertale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's something that I'm having fun, not just going through and seeing the new stuff, but I'm actually enjoying playing it again. And a lot of that has to do with the party system, that there's like 30 party members that you can get. They're kind of expendable. You can only train up a couple per playthrough. So you can really have a different playthrough if you just choose to approach it differently. You can choose to take joy or not. Like there's actual game, yeah. There's decisions you can make too that alter the gameplay. There's gameplay differences that'll crop up on repeat playthroughs. So it
How many
has like
times have you played through this game?
just two regular, and I'm doing pain mode,
Okay.
which is a challenge. But yeah, so that's Lisa. But along that Lisa vein, I picked up Earthbound. And I started playing Earthbound a while ago, but I didn't really get into it. But now I'm totally into Earthbound. Earthbound, if you didn't know, came out in, I think it's 95 for the Super Nintendo. And it's basically the game that started this kind of humorous RPG phenomenon, even though it really kind of only picked up recently. But Undertale and Lisa both are explicitly said to have been inspired by Earthbound, and that much is obvious.
In
You
the case
can,
of Undertale, like the UI and everything is very
oh yeah,
obvious.
even both.
Uh,
Dingling even said Lisa is an Earthbound ripoff, which I wouldn't agree with, but that's what he said about it.
all right.
And Undertale even lifts a lot of the same like Burger Pants, you know him, the burger guy. It's a
No.
reference to a shop in the first town in Earthbound.
No, I wouldn't know.
It's
I
like,
know almost nothing about
yeah,
Earthbound.
it's really cool. So while something like Undertale or Lisa, they're Earthbound with a twist, it's nice to go back and see what Earthbound itself really was,
Yeah.
which is it's magic. Magic's the best word for it. It's just got this really interesting atmosphere. It's not totally happy because I've over the years I've had spoilers leak through. I mean, for a game that old, that will happen. So I kind of know that it gets darker, but it's not like the game is about that twist from happy to like it's a pretty solid experience that winds up legitimately earning those things when it chooses to go for it. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think there's a curve with these RPGs. Basically, every JRPG I've ever played, or game like that, I mean, Undertale and Lisa are made by Americans, but where it takes me a little while to really get into it. There's like a point where I get totally invested and it clicks, and before that, I might just put it on the back burner for a while.
Yeah.
And in Lisa, that was getting the fireball ability. That's when I finally felt like I was doing something to the enemies. And same thing with this. Once I finally picked up the first like legitimately good psi power, I was totally in. And it's just great. It's a great game.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, like there's a mole. Most of the animals that you find are hostile. They
I
run
thought you meant
around
like a
and you fight
spy.
them. No, just a regular mole. And so you assume that this mole is going to be hostile to you, and you go up and talk to him, and he says, "I am not your enemy. I am just a run-of-the-mill mole." And that's the mole.
Sounds like a great game.
It really is.
No, I mean, yeah, I totally believe you. I'll never go back and play Earthbound. I can pretty much guarantee you that. But I do plan on playing Lisa at least. I know that I wouldn't be able to get through a game using RPG mechanics that's that old, because I'm sure there's so much about it that's unbearable to me as a personally to me as a gamer.
Well, from what I've encountered, Lisa's really well paced because you don't ever have to grind. You never
Yeah.
have to ever grind or waste your time doing anything you don't want to do. That's how Lisa was designed, and it works. It's just all the good parts all the way through. Earthbound, being 20 years older, didn't have that same savvy when it came to what is tolerable
Yeah, I
gameplay-wise.
mean, games were made different.
But still, it is significantly less grindy than JRPGs of that time that I've played.
Yeah.
Like, so even then, it's an easy game too. Yeah, so even though it has some of those elements, they're not, I would say for most people, would be enough to deter them from enjoying it.
Well, I'm
Give
glad
it a
you're
shot.
having fun with it at least. I don't think I'll give it a shot.
Not you.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
the general you
The audience.
with better taste than Skippy.
Oh damn, that cuts deep. Have you been
No, I'm
doing
sure there's lots
anything
of great
else?
racing games I've never played.
Have you been doing anything else with your time?
I've been doing a lot, but not video game or media or internet
Started
related.
school
so-
back up,
Yes,
so
among other things.
busy people we
Yes.
are. We can't be podcasting all the time. The audience doesn't donate enough to our Patreon for that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to talking about what I've done in the past week. and a
Yeah,
half, so I'll
I'm
get
looking
right
forward
it.
to you talking about it too, because I saw the
Uh,
picture.
First of all, let's just start it out with The Witness.
Oh,
The Witness is Jonathan Blow's new game, and there's a lot to say about it, and I don't want to say hardly any of it because I don't want to ruin the experience for anyone. And I mean, it wouldn't ruin it, but like I don't want to sour any part of that experience because I think this is a game that anyone can enjoy, and I think it's a game that almost entirely is reliant upon you going in without being spoiled on its like mechanics or anything, because it's about knowledge. It's about unlocking the rules and stuff behind the game, and that's where the enjoyment of it comes through. So if you explain to someone like, oh, here's what you do, you're going to give away a little bit of that of the enjoyment. So I can't talk too much about it, but I'll
All-
talk vaguely about it.
All I know, I'm gonna try it. All I know is that it's a puzzle game in 3D with a
Yes,
cool
and
art
see that's
style.
so that's the thing. It's like, okay, so let me start out by saying before The Witness came out, I was getting kind of excited for it because I really liked Braid, which was Jonathan Blow's last major
Braid
game.
was good.
Yeah, Braid's good. It's been criticized for its story, which like you would kind of put in quotes because it doesn't really have that much of a plot, or like it kind of does, but it's very vaguely
That's the
described
best thing about the game,
and
I
very
think.
metaphorical, and I like that a lot too. It's a lot of people say it's pretentious and stuff, and yeah, it is, but I think it's well done. I think it's well written. I
Yeah.
think that there's very interesting. It's fun to kind of try to think about what there's obviously intent behind the pretentious writing, and like it's not like
Right.
pretentious for the sake of being pretentious.
I got kind of
Um,
tired of the time puzzles, actually.
I liked them a lot.
I liked
thought
them
they
a
were
lot
so
too,
clever.
but I got tired of them as the game went on.
Mhm.
But the story was why I kept playing.
Yeah, yeah, the story definitely keeps you moving because like it stays vague in a way that makes you want to try to figure it out, I guess. Like the story's part of the puzzle almost.
And
But,
the game is old enough that I'm okay saying this, that the way it all kind of comes together
I think
at the
it's
end,
fine to spoil the Braid, Braid's
well, just like the last story thing. That
Yeah, I know exactly what you
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
It's a very interesting way to marry the
It
the gameplay to
legitimately
the story.
like
It's good.
it made me sit there and smile when I first
Yeah.
saw it, and like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Very clever little subversion. And yeah, I liked Braid a lot, and I even liked the puzzles, which were super hard in some spots. Uh, I remember there being a couple spots where I couldn't take it anymore, and I have very little patience for puzzle games, and I look up the solutions sometimes, and I looked up like maybe one or two of them in Braid in my first playthrough, and you get the solution and you're going, well, why the fuck didn't I think of that? Like, how did I not realize? And that's what makes it so good, is that like it earns all of its challenging puzzles, and there's not any puzzle in Braid or I think The Witness where you sit there and you go, "Oh, well, I couldn't have figured that out." Like that's just something you have to just bang your head against until you get it. Everything makes
That's
sense
good.
in retrospect, you know. So moving on to The Witness, knowing what I knew about Braid, I knew that The Witness had to be more than what I saw of it too, which was wandering around on an empty island that looks kind of nice and solving puzzles on screens. I was thinking, there's no way the guy who made Braid moved on to make this really simple puzzle game and just putting it in a 3D world and that's it. Because that's kind of what it
And
looks like. It
charged
looks,
$40 for it.
yeah, it looks like nothing. It looks like, okay, maybe those puzzles are kind of challenging, but they don't look that much fun. And what's the point of even having the world around them? I knew that there had to be some more to that game, and of course there is a lot more to it than that. Um, Yet at the same time, what you see is what you get. Like you won't be spoiled in that game by seeing. There's not even any later areas in that game. You can wander almost wherever you want at the beginning. There's places you unlock by solving certain
That's
puzzles
really
and stuff.
cool,
But
though.
yeah,
That's
it is.
how
It's
Ethan
very cool.
Carter did it.
Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
they're the same
Ethan
kind
Carter
of game,
had a
really.
linear path that if you solved all the puzzles, you could go on. But like, yeah, it's just an
Right.
open
It
world,
was
and if
a
you want,
big
you can.
area, and then you
Yeah,
could find, solve little
yeah.
puzzles. But
And there
the
are, I
meat of
would say,
this game would be the puzzles.
there's definitely a lot of similarities between Ethan Carter and The Witness. I think they share the same, uh, I guess, influence of Myst. I think, and I did
Okay.
like Myst when I was younger, a lot. And The Witness, especially, it's an island that you're solving puzzles on, and it's empty, and you're trying to solve the mystery of why it's empty. Kind of, I'd say there's less uh, actual exposition in The Witness than in Myst. Like you don't actually learn what happened really. Like maybe you can kind of figure it out, but it's very
Now, have
light on
you
that.
finished it, or
I finished it. There's the main ending, and then there's like the complete everything ending, and I haven't seen or heard anything about the complete everything ending because I kind of wanted to get it myself, but it requires you to do a whole lot of shit, so I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to it. uh, but yes, I've done the main ending, and the main ending doesn't solve anything really. uh, it's not it's as far as like plot or solving the mystery or anything like that, it's a very unsatisfying ending. I didn't like it. But it's getting there, that's where the value of the game is, obviously. And so yeah, there's all these different areas on the island, and each one of them kind of teaches you a new, I guess, rule about these puzzles. So it'll start out and it's like, all right,
just so I'm clear, is this the puzzle game where I saw footage of like a screen and routing
draw a
around?
line.
Is that
Yeah.
every puzzle, or is that one type of thing that you
That
do?
is, yes, that is everything you do in that game.
Okay.
Which made me go like, how the fuck can this be actually interesting or go anywhere with that very simple concept? But they do some very clever things with it. And so yeah, you start out with like a very simple rule set of like, all right, draw the line to separate these two things, and then it'll introduce a new rule. And so now you're working with two rules at the same time, and it makes the puzzle a lot more challenging when you're having to like sit there and solve almost two puzzles at the same time almost. And there's a ton of different rules, and each area, for the most part, kind of teaches you a different rule. Um, and so there is a little bit of a progression, I guess, but for the most part, you can finish the areas on their own without having to finish other areas to learn other rules. Like usually they just use the rules that they themselves are trying to teach you, but some of them incorporate other elements. It gets complicated. It gets very, very hard. And I admit that I looked up the solution to,
You're
I
not a
think,
gamer.
I'm not a real puzzler. I looked up the solution to, like, I think 2 puzzles. And both of them, I looked at the solution and I went, well, I don't really know how I missed that. Like, you get stuck in this line of thinking where it's like, I think that this is the
Yep.
solution, and when it's not, you can't unthink of it. Like, you still think it's the solution even though it obviously isn't. And then when you actually get the solution, you go, well, what the fuck? Like, how did I even? And so, like, what you have happen is, if you're talking to someone else about solving these puzzles, they'll be like, well, I didn't have any trouble with that one at all. And it's not luck. I mean, you're getting to it through intuition, but it's almost like whoever just happens to stumble upon the right line of thinking first is just going to, some of those puzzles are just going to click really easily, and some of them are going to kill them. It's very interesting, but yeah, you go around the island, you solve these puzzles, and they incorporate. I'm not going to spoil anything here, so I'm going to be very vague, but they incorporate the world around you in a way that's unexpected.
Okay.
And I think I do have some criticisms of it, but they're mostly kind of personal preference of what I would want from this kind of game, especially one that seems influenced from Myst. Like, the things that I liked about Myst, this game doesn't really have, honestly. I mean, it touches on it, but not deeply enough. Like, Myst, one of the appealing things about Myst is that you're kind of, to solve the puzzles, you kind of have to think of, like, well, what was the person who built this thing thinking? Or, like, what am I trying to do with this thing? What is this contraption built for? Sometimes that can get you to the solution, and there are moments in The Witness that are kind of like that, but for the most part, it's just kind of straight up puzzles.
Okay. And they're all, just to make sure, are all the puzzles deliberately designed, or are they
Yes.
generated? Okay.
They're very obviously deliberately designed too. Like, you can tell that each
Because
one.
if I was gonna play a kind of cool adventure puzzle game, I would want it to be that way. I would want it to be deliberately constructed like that.
Yeah, it definitely is, and you know it because they incorporate the environment. Like, sometimes the puzzles will represent something.
That's cool.
Like, maybe there'll be a control panel for a contraption or something, and when you solve the puzzle, you're solving something in the real world almost. It's hard to explain. You kind of have to see it.
Okay.
And there's something else to that game that when you discover it, it makes you start looking at the world in a certain way that, like, I'm not gonna spoil it. I can't ruin this for anyone, but there's something else there that's, like, screaming at you in the face, and when you see it, it changes everything. Like, maybe you won't see it until you've completed almost all the areas, and then you're gonna have to go back through all the areas and think of them a different way. It's so cool.
Okay.
It's really neat. I like that game a lot. It's definitely worth $40. I think I put about 20 hours into it, and I solved every area. So I'd say it's about a 20-hour game if you just want to solve the basic areas.
The people who are bitching and moaning about the $40 price tag?
I think those people just haven't played the game. They just don't understand what they're talking about. That's it. It's as far as time goes, you get your money's worth, and I think, especially as far as entertainment goes, you get your money's worth because it's a very unique, entertaining game. So there's my hot opinion. Now let's talk about something much less artistic and good. On Monday night this week, I went to a live filming of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. So
in Birmingham, Alabama. It was actually incredibly fun. I had so much fun. I was going to go with my brother-in-law, who knows nothing about wrestling, and just kind of, like, see what his reaction was like and kind of explain things as it went. And he ended up getting sick, like high fever on the night of. And so I had to take someone who hadn't been watching wrestling in a while, but had watched it, like, in high school. And they ended up having a ton of fun. And I think I might have gotten them back into wrestling. So I feel almost like guilty because it's not something I recommend anyone gets into, but especially because I've gone deep, man. In the last couple of weeks, I've gone deep. I've hit a new low in terms of wrestling. Well, it's really a new high in terms of wrestling quality that I'm watching, but a new low in terms of the volume of wrestling that I'm watching, because I've moved on past the confines of the WWE, and I've started watching Lucha Underground and a very small amount
Underground.
Lucha Underground and a very small amount of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm going to talk about these things because they are fascinating.
Okay.
So I'll talk about Lucha Underground first. This one's really weird. And it's hard to explain. I've been trying to explain it to people, and it's very hard to get it into their head without them just seeing it. It's like Lucha Underground, the concept is they took all these wrestlers from like Mexico or whatever that already are popular, and they said, "Oh, we're having a promotion in America, and you can come up and prove yourself to the Americans, and da 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 da." And it's this new promotion, and the way that they're doing this is they've got a very small venue. It's like a warehouse, and so not a large crowd, like maybe a couple hundred people in the crowd total, and they pre-tape the episodes, so like it's a live audience, but it's not a live show. And because they pre-tape it, they can do things like, first of all, they edit it together in a very, very, very efficient way where you get like 3 matches in an hour, and it's just an hour long, or even really it's just 44 minutes long or whatever, because it's got commercials. And so it's much, much faster moving than, say, the WWE, which is like 3 hours of really slow content and horrible things happening. So it's very fast, and in between the matches, in order to build storylines and characters and stuff, they just filmed scenes like as if it was a TV show, like not a reality TV show, not where like there's a cameraman with a camera, but like the camera doesn't actually exist, like it's a scene out of Breaking Bad or something. So you've got these wrestlers
That's cool.
who wrestle in the ring, and then like the backstage segment isn't them cutting a promo to a camera with a microphone. It's them, in a smoky room talking to the manager or whatever. And because they've completely abandoned any pretense of realism or reality, they go so far out of the bounds of reality. Like they have they have a wrestler who I've only watched like a few bits and pieces really, but I know they've got a wrestler who I think has a jetpack. He's like a superhero. He's like Iron Man or something. Like he could, like at the end of his match, he'll like go up on the roof and jetpack away. They've got one who is some sort of like lizard creature, and I think he's actually supposed to be a lizard creature. Like he's got a lucha mask, and it looks like a lizard head, and he has this tongue thing that like hangs out of his mouth really far and is really gross looking, and he can like retract it, and like this is during a match. Like it's so weird. And so they have like there's people who can basically do magic and stuff. They go.
That sounds more fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's super fun because they've just completely said fuck it, but they still play it 100% straight. Like they're not playing it for comedic value.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to, exactly. And so they just started their second season, and I'd heard so much good things about it that I had to start watching the second season at least, and I've been going back and watching the first one too. But the second season begins with the wrestler who won the belt at the end of the last season has built a throne in the warehouse, and he overlooks the ring while they're having matches. He's just up there the whole time, just watching with his belt, and apparently that throne was like built from the souls of the music band that used to play up there. They have like a live band, and the band is gone now, and they put out a comic that's supposed to bridge the events between season 1 and season 2. And in the comic,
for the continuity.
Yeah, exactly. And in the comic, 3 of the wrestlers they're like demons or something, suck the souls out of the band and forge the throne or something. It's fucking bizarre and so much fun, and the wrestling's way better. It's because it's lucha style, and they're just flipping around and doing all sorts of crazy shit. It's much more choreographed, like
it's called Lucha
Cirque du Soleil
Underground
kind of thing. Lucha Underground. I highly recommend
Spanish?
someone. A lot of the wrestlers are Mexican and don't speak English, or don't speak a lot of English, but it's English. It's for an American audience.
Okay.
It's for an American audience, probably largely made up of Hispanics, but it's in English. Okay. It's an English program. They do subtitles for Spanish and no subtitles for English.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, it's it's fucking crazy, and like they're still bringing in like real wrestlers into this crazy fictional world. So like you've got like Rey Mysterio and stuff appearing in this in this fucked up crazy thing. It's fun. Um,
Now, this is sort of related, but I've been watching lots of interviews with the creator of Lisa, and it's no secret he's very into pro wrestling. Very,
Yeah.
very into pro wrestling. There's a whole section of the
I
game
thought I saw a lot of
where you,
wrestlers in the screenshots of the game.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
a whole part where you just are a pro wrestler.
Okay.
And there's like the matches are fixed and it's stories and
Yeah.
the guy is a huge fan of pro wrestling. He even included Eric Bador and Brian from Mega 64 in the game because of the Go Home show they do about wrestling.
Yeah, I do listen to the Go Home Show every week.
He is, yeah, he's really into it. And basically, in all of these interviews, he mentions wrestling at some point or another. It's different wrestlers that I don't know the names of. And he, at some point, was describing the genesis of Lisa, and it was something like this. What if there was a world that was just huge buff wrestler dudes only, and then there was one girl? That's Lisa.
Okay. That's a good concept. And her name is Lisa, I assume.
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, don't think about
I'll
that
play it.
stuff.
I'm gonna play that game.
just-
So
yeah.
I-
If
I-
you
I
love
don't
wrestling,
wanna-
you will love it because
Yeah.
like it has that kind of wrestling spirit to it, where all
Yeah.
the attacks have like some stupid, crazy name. I think some of them are lifted directly from WWE or something
I'm
like
sure
it.
they are. Yeah.
Like all your skills are like they're not just a punch combo. It's a buster punches and machine
Yeah.
gun flip and
Well, what I've learned is that um, the I thought that wrestling was much more segmented. I guess like the WWE has their wrestlers and their wrestling moves and their storylines and everything, and that's kind of true at least for the WWE. Like they keep separate, and they if it doesn't happen in the WWE, it doesn't matter to them. Like
it's not
it-
canon.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
not canon
canon.
basically. But there's still even in terms of WWE, uh, there's still like the names of common moves and stuff like the DDT and stuff like that. They're universal.
Oh, okay.
It's become it's become a thing where there are now standards and universals and this is how wrestling works and there's not a lot of disparity between them and so that's where New Japan Pro Wrestling actually comes in because New Japan I didn't know hardly anything about it, but someone recommended to watch like a Wrestle Kingdom, which is basically Japan's WrestleMania, and they have a whole roster of what they call gaijin wrestlers,
Foreign
guys
wrestlers.
from the West, who they come in and they don't speak any Japanese and they fuck shit up or whatever, and they're all the bad guys. Like they're all bad guys because what they do is, you know, in American wrestling, you've got people doing bad things behind the ref's back to win matches, you know, cheating, fighting outside of the ring, doing all sorts of crazy shit. And the Japanese don't do that as much. They try to keep it more, you know, honorable. It's all in the ring, and
Oh, of course.
you know, it's more like a sport.
Do the
And so the great
gaijins come
thing-
in and ruin everything?
Exactly. The gaijins come in and they start, you know, pulling people out of the ring and like tripping them, and when the ref turns their back, they'll like scrape their eyes and stuff like that. And the Japanese audience hates it, and it's perfect because they just become these huge bad guys. And
That's great.
and it's crazy because so like during the Royal Rumble, which was recently, AJ Styles made his debut in the WWE, and he's this guy who's been doing indie and TNA wrestling for a while, and he's never been with the WWE, and he's probably like the biggest wrestling star who isn't associated with the WWE until now. And he had a couple years in Japan doing this stuff and leading this group of gaijin wrestlers they call the Bullet Club. And it's fun. I'm going back and I'm watching some of their matches and stuff, and it is just so much fun because another thing that they do is like for some reason in Japan they put more emphasis on the sounds of the match. Like they put microphones in the ring that where you can hear them hitting each other and yelling at each other and like smack talking and stuff. And and the guys who speak English, they can curse and stuff all they want because
That's great.
people can't understand them and don't care. And so like they're literally in the ring going like, "Fuck you, man! Fuck you! I'm gonna kill you!" and just shit like that. And it's so different from what I used to for the last year of watching wrestling. It is so great. And like there in some of them at least, I don't know if this is the case for all of them, but at least in some of them, they have the English commentators, one of whom was in the match that I watched was one of the commentators in Lucha Underground. But they're on the side at a little table of their own, and like the wrestlers come over and like steal their headsets and are like talking to the headsets and just like, yeah, we're fucking hungover from last night and we don't give a shit, and it's just shit that you're not used to seeing, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Well,
God, I'm way too
pro
deep into
wrestling combines the thrill of live sports with the drama of storytelling. It's the perfect art form.
You've sold everyone on it now. It's sports entertainment, as Vince McMahon would say. But yeah, like I've been watching for like a year now, and I've never really, I wouldn't say I ever got like a passion for it or anything, or like I love wrestling. I never like felt like that until now, where I'm starting to like look at a lot of the other stuff and see the people that I'm watching, the matches that they would have in the past and stuff. It's very. It adds a lot to it and makes it a lot more fun, and I kind of hate myself for it, but at the same time I'm having a ton of fun watching it, so I don't give a shit.
Chat, that was a Lisa quote, by the way.
There you go.
I do not officially consider wrestling to be the perfect art form. Moving on.
But maybe you will if you watch Lucha Underground.
Maybe. I have never seen a single wrestling match.
You need to watch something. I'll send you a video or something. I'll think of one. I'll think of like the epitome of wrestling. I'll try to sit there and think of what's the match you need to see.
Okay. Well, maybe once you send it to me, I'll film my reaction. Segue.
Oh.
React World. Fine Bros.
The Fine Brothers. Our arch nemesis.
Yeah. So it's basically over at this point.
Yeah.
But
it came and went in the time that we had our last podcast.
Yeah. So Cliff Notes version. I'm sure people watching this already know, but in case you don't, the Fine Brothers, proprietors of the popular Blanks React To series, they tried to trademark the term React and their React format. And they announced React World, which is a licensing program where at the low price of 60% of your ad revenue, you can legally produce reaction videos. And yeah, I already know that it's about their specific format and not reaction videos in general, but still, what they were trademarking was like the way it was shot and like the format itself. It's not just about the blank React To word thing. And they didn't even originate that format, so it's not even really legal.
But if they're the first ones to copyright it.
No, you can't be the first one to copyright something. Something is copyrighted. You already know this, but in case people don't know, once you make something, it's copyrighted. You don't have to submit a copyright. You can, so that it's on record, but you don't have to. So yeah, they submitted a trademark for it, and now it's just not around anymore. I don't know what the deal with the trademark is, but they basically, reneged on the whole React World thing, and they released like an apology, or something like one, where they demonstrated just how completely disconnected they are from this whole thing. Like, they don't understand why people were upset by this, really. It's kind of hard to describe, but
they're just acting like they aren't. Maybe, I don't know.
That's what I thought.
It's pretty bizarre.
When I first heard the story, I figured, okay, it's the Fine Brothers being the Fine Brothers. I know. I had them submit a DMCA on my video that was parodying them, and I submitted a count, went back up. And so yeah, I figured it's just them trying to make money and squeeze people. That's something that they would do. But when they're making these videos explaining it, and they're talking about themselves as content creators and getting like worked up about other people stealing their content, and it's like they're actually delusional and really feel like they're creators. And that's the funniest part to me of all this. That whether or not there's a license, who cares? It's just kind of funny to actually get to see the Fine Bros being themselves, which is not great people.
Yeah, just or just totally, yeah, delusional. Just they don't even have any idea. I don't know. I'm a little. I feel like there's a little more of a theatrics to it to try to save face. Because I've seen them. I haven't been reading deeply into this stuff. I just kind of have seen it at a glance, but I have seen them directly contradict like claim that they weren't doing the kinds of things that they did like when they took down your video. Just say that
Oh
they,
yeah,
they just didn't do that stuff, and that's obviously not true. Like we have personal evidence of it. So I feel like they were, you know, they realized that they made a PR mistake and have been trying to remedy that by basically feigning ignorance and saying like, well, we didn't, I don't know, we didn't realize anything was wrong with this, da 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 da. Even though that they were just obviously making such a cynical move. It's annoying. I'm really glad that it got the publicity it did. I like it any time that
I
you
was
get
I was
publicity
surprised at first that it blew up like that because I didn't think that many people cared
Yeah, I
about
was a little surprised
Fine
too.
Brothers and stuff. But
But it's not so much the Fine Brothers; it's this recurring story
well,
of
yeah,
people abusing the YouTubes.
exactly. That's why it blew up because people who can make it into a big deal have gotten their shit taken down before,
Yeah.
and they don't like the Fine Brothers because the Fine Brothers have tried to squeeze them out in the past.
Exactly. So now there's like this instant knee jerk reaction, which knee jerk is usually said in a negative way, but I mean it in a positive way. There's this reaction, like this visceral reaction to when people abuse that system.
Knees
I'm
react
really glad
to
because-
force from a mallet.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay. The Division came out.
Did
recently.
really?
No. The beta of the Division came
Okay.
out recently.
I thought. Yeah, I was going to say that.
No,
would
yeah, the
be-
Division. I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but the beta
Is it an
out
open
right
beta or?
now. Ish. I know there's a lot of people playing it, so it's not like a super closed thing. But I'm not sure. I think it's one of those things where like if you pre-order it, you get the beta or whatever. That's a weird game. Have you seen any of that?
I've
stuff?
seen the trailers with the
The trailers
tactical
don't.
talking.
The trailers probably don't do justice to what that game actually is. This game is basically third-person Destiny in a post-apocalyptic New York. I wasn't expecting it to be this way because it's Tom Clancy and the way that the advertising was leading up to it, like it felt like it was going to be this kind of realistic kind of thing where like you have your little squad and you're going around and trying to be stealthy and stuff. It's not realistic at all. Like everyone's a bullet sponge and you do damage. Like there's damage numbers that come out of the enemies when you hit
Okay.
them. Enemies will swarm into an area, like 15 mobs will swarm into an area, and they're all dressed. They look exactly the same as each other. Like they're just an enemy type. They're like a hoodlum with like a hoodie on and a gun, and they're all wearing the same colors and everything. And they come out and they all look exactly the same, as if it's like an MMO or something. It's bizarre. I was blown
Is
away
it-
when I was seeing it.
Now, okay, so one of the things I don't like about Destiny, and what I think kind of keeps it from being a more mainstream success, is that there's very little to do with other players when you're in the big world. That when you're in the open world, you either have a party of at max like 3 people, barely talking. You can dance, but you just kind of go around completing objectives. From what I saw of the Division, there's some player versus player stuff, and
Yeah.
there's just more to do with other people, which is interesting to me.
I haven't looked at a ton of it, so I don't know exactly how it works, but there's this going rogue idea where you can turn against your party members and try to steal their loot and stuff, which is interesting, but it looks like it's implemented in a very like regimented way that I'm not sure I dig very much, but it is interesting, and it does seem like it focuses a whole lot more than Destiny does on player interaction, on like forming your little group and going around and doing stuff. Like you're not meant to play that game alone. and so I don't even know if you can. I'm sure there's probably a lot of missions that don't even let you do it alone. So, yeah, it looks fun. I don't know if I don't think it's my kind of game. I just don't think I'm interested in that like small scale. I don't know what to call these games now. Like small scale MMO. Like you're not. It's not really an MMO. You're only connected to a few people at a time.
I'm willing to call it shared world. I don't see that as too bad of a
Shared world. Yeah.
buzzword.
Yeah. That I don't think that's a buzzword. It's just
People, it's often
maybe that's a good word
accused.
for it.
It's often accused of being an empty buzzword, which I don't really think it is.
I don't think so. You're right.
Besides being originated by Bungie and Activision when they were describing Destiny, that it's useful. It's a useful word because it refers to a category between World of Warcraft and
It's not an MMO, and
Counter-Strike.
it's not just like a multiplayer game. Yeah, I don't know. The whole appeal of an MMO to me is like being in a big connected world with a bunch of other players all like affecting the world at the same time. And the shared world concept feels like the worst of both worlds. Like it doesn't incorporate either thing about either genre that I particularly like. It just mixes two things that I could do without. But
what was
it does
cool?
look fun.
What was cool about Destiny, for the little while I got to really play it with friends, was, check out this coat thing I got. It looks sick, and you can just see it on them, and it's just building characters and progressing with other people feels good.
Yeah.
It's fun. I don't know how much of that.
I'm assuming they're
there is
chasing
in
the
this.
same itch.
It seems like it. With the damage numbers, they probably will.
Yeah, there's going to be equipment that is better. You're looking for better equipment and all that stuff. Probably so.
Which I am totally fine with because I've been looking for a better Destiny on PC.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for the Destiny itch and you want to play something on PC, it sounds like this is your thing. Like I think it'll be very successful. I think people really like it.
I'm still gonna wait and see. I'm not totally sold. I'll have to check it out.
You have to see if other people are enjoying it and like whether it's actually a well-made thing or not.
That's half of it. Because if your friends aren't playing it, there's not much in it for you. But if everybody's playing it, then it adds a lot of value. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's not what I expected from a game with Tom Clancy on the name. Like you're shooting people in the head with a shotgun multiple times to kill them and stuff. Like it's just weird. It's weird that they bothered to make it a Tom Clancy title. But whatever, that's their brand. They might as well take advantage of it.
I guess. Besides Far Cry, I think every shooter they make is a Tom Clancy game, right? Tom Clancy's
maybe.
blank. I can't think of an Ubisoft shooter
for the most part,
that's
at
not
least.
Far Cry or that. I just don't. I guess it's their brand, but I never really see Tom Clancy's being a strong part of any of those. Maybe like Ghost Recon or.
When I see Tom Clancy in front of a game, I assume it's going to be there's going to be a certain level of attention to realism. Like this is going to be a challenge because
it's a different kind.
Yeah, because you're not going to be a bullet sponge. It's a very specific kind of usually tactical gameplay. Not the best. Like I've never been like a big fan of. I like
tactical shooting is what they have in common.
This I guess you could argue that this has some tactical shooting elements to it, but the way that everyone's a bullet sponge, it doesn't.
Now,
it doesn't
are other
feel
players
like
a
Tom
bullet
Clancy.
sponge?
Yes, everyone's a bullet sponge. Like the enemies and the players, they have a lot of health. That's the only way I can put it, or at least that's the way it looks.
But can you just shoot them? You got to be able to just shoot somebody in the head, right?
You'd have to do it multiple times. You get a bonus for shooting them in the head. It's like Borderlands. You get a bonus for shooting them in the head, but it's still, you still have to chip off their health.
Huh.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
It's odd, but it is interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. In fact, I'm glad they're going that direction with it because the way it looked before looked totally unappealing to me. It looked like they were kind of trying to be DayZ,
or The Last of Us,
or The Last of Us, or whatever, but like multiplayer, and trying to like be that, but be more organized or something, like make it more structured. And I think that the whole appeal of that, like of that survival genre, is that it's inherently unorganized and unstructured, and that's what people like about it. So I'm glad that they didn't go that direction with it because I don't think that would work at all. At least this is something. It's still a clone. It's still basically like, oh, here's Borderlands and Destiny thrown together, but at least it's not. They
did a good job with Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Are you still playing
it's
that?
basically kind of, it's been a week or so, but I'm not
Yeah,
done with it.
yeah.
I'm nowhere near done with it.
I'm almost definitely gonna get that when it if it goes on sale for a good amount.
Yeah, I just sold
Because
a couple CS:GO items and then picked it up.
yeah, yeah. That game appeals to me. Well, should appeal to me a lot, but 2 hours didn't get me the experience, and $60 is too much for
It
me.
seems like just the right spot. I don't know, maybe going on, this might become less true, but it seems to be in the right spot where the outcome really depends on what the game sold, which is the tactics and the infiltration and the gadgets, and that stuff actually matters.
Yeah,
You can't run around and shoot people and just by being really good at headshots.
yeah,
Um, that matters, but it's just one of many things you have to be good at.
yeah.
So
It doesn't
it
rely on
really does.
those
Yeah,
twitch instincts
it's
and
not the
stuff.
same skill set as CS:GO.
Yeah, like someone could. I feel like someone could easily win a match of Rainbow Six Siege with just straight up not very good at all gun
Oh
skills,
yeah,
because like if you just strategize the right way with your team and infiltrate in the right way, it doesn't matter if you're catching them by
right.
surprise in the right
Because
way. Then you if you get to jump on them.
if you know that they have the hostage behind the desk, then you can breach into a room, throw a grenade in on the other side of the desk, take some people out, and then maybe sweep the corners. And then you have like you can put together a strategy that makes sense and can pay off or can
Yeah.
fail. And it's more interesting than just choosing positions in CS:GO. I don't know if it doesn't have the same competitive purity really, because there's so much variation, and
I'd
there's
love to see
classes like
people try to play it
TF2 almost.
competitively, though. I'd love to like
Oh,
watch
I
a
would
round
too.
of that commentated.
I would
'Cause
like to see what the balance at that level would be
yeah,
like.
I would like to see people play that at a high level and just see what it's like, just out of curiosity. I don't know if it would necessarily be a hit or not, but yeah, it would be interesting.
We've talked about it before, but they haven't tried to force it into being that kind of thing, really,
Yeah, exactly.
which is nice.
They designed the game that it can be that, but they haven't marketed it that way. So that's awesome. I'm really glad they they haven't milked that or tried to milk that. Okay. The Dice conference, I guess, is coming
Yeah.
up pretty soon, which is like a annual gathering of developers who make speeches at each other about interesting topics in video games. And Kojima and Del Toro are going to be there,
Yes,
which
they're
I
going
don't
to
know what
be.
that implies.
They're hosting a joint presentation, so that's pretty big. Now it could be a couple things. These are some speculations, some bits of conjecture. I think it's either going to be a vague kind of post-mortem saying what they can say legally about what happened in their work
Yeah.
together, or they'll announce something new. And that could be a Silent Hills but not, in the classic like Kickstarter spiritual successor thing.
Yeah.
It could be
I
something
mean, it
new.
already looked like their game wasn't going to conform to the Silent Hills format. Like,
Right.
It looked like it was just going to be
It
taking
doesn't
place in
really
that
need
universe,
to
so.
be a Silent Hill game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's different enough, at least from PT.
I don't want
PT
to get my
stands
hopes up.
alone, or not alone, but it stands on its own as a quality thing.
Yeah.
And a more gameplay like that would be really cool.
I don't want to get my hopes up because obviously, if it doesn't come true, then that would be disappointing. But I feel like it's hard to. It would be mean to schedule this thing with the two of them
Yeah.
and not announce something, or you don't even have to announce it, but not actually be working on something in the future, like because of what that teases. Like it would just be like such a blue balls thing to do.
Now, all we know is that the Metal Gear creator and Pacific Rim director will discuss their creative influences. So that's what they said. Obviously, if they were to announce something, they would do it there so that there's
Maybe.
hype. But, yeah,
It'd be a weird
who knows
place-
what they're going to do.
It would be a weird place to announce things. Like from what I know about Dice, that would be a really weird place to announce something. 'Cause
Maybe.
it's not for that,
But they
But still,
Kojima's
like,
done it before. GDC isn't a place where you really make big announcements, but he revealed that Phantom Pain was Metal Gear there.
Yeah.
So I'm not really
Let's see.
discounting any possibilities, but yeah, I'm not totally sure it's anything either.
Yeah. It does, hint at a relationship between those two people that hopefully could be fruitful in the future.
They're just cool guys.
Regardless of
maybe it'll be a movie. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. That would be what Kojima seems like he's always wanted to do.
This comes with, or not with, but in the wake of Kojima Productions working on a PlayStation 4 PC game.
We will see.
We will.
In other video game conference news, EA has announced that they're not going to have their standard press conference at E3, which is a pretty big deal, I think.
Are they going to try to do their own thing?
I don't know how many years they've been doing it, but yeah, because like last year, Bethesda did their thing where it was like, all right, the weekend before we have our own little conference, and it's not officially sanctioned by E3.
But they officially did Fallout 4 at E3, I thought.
They did, yes. They attached it to Activision's or someone else's conference, but they had one of their own where they showed Fallout 4 and Doom and whatever else they had in works. So Bethesda has confirmed.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Bethesda's confirmed they're going to do that again, which isn't super surprising, although I don't know really what they're going to have to talk about. But EA is also going to do something along that line. I think EA is going to is planning it to be more of a public event where like you can come and try games and stuff.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. But it hints at E3 kind of ceasing to be relevant, which people have been kind of talking about for a couple of years now. Of like, does anyone really need E3 anymore in this age of like how information gets out, and like E3 just doesn't seem like it serves the same purpose it did a few years ago. So I don't know. This could be a domino effect, and I would be sad to see E3 to go because it's such a fun part of the year.
I just don't think it's likely.
I don't know
because
it takes a lot of money to do a conference at E3.
Well, sure, but announcing something at E3, it gets people looking at you.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. There's a sense that if something's announced at E3, it's a big deal, or that the company announcing it thinks it's a big deal and wants to put it on the biggest platform possible. And every year we know that this is the biggest video game announcement thing that will happen all year, and we know where to turn our eyes to. It's probably the only video game press kind of live stream I really watch besides like the Game Awards every year. People watch it. There's a marketing incentive to like having a time where people get really excited about stuff because it primes people perfectly for showing them new stuff that you want them to buy. Yeah, so I think people enjoy watching the stuff and seeing it that way, and I also think that economically it makes sense for publishers to do. I think once you get EA big, that's when you branch off. But I think it's here to stay for a while.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna ever, or not ever. I don't see in the future, in the foreseeable future. I don't see it just ceasing to be a thing, but I could easily see it becoming something where everyone hosts their conference unofficially, like not a part of E3, but around that week, and E3 becomes this thing where everyone convenes, and that's where like journalists are shown games and stuff, and the conferences are separate from that, maybe like to save money. But I still think, I think you're right. You need that time of the year during the summer to like hype up your games that are going to be coming out in 6 months. So it'll always serve a purpose at least, and I guess it'll always be just as enjoyable. It doesn't matter to us whether EA is at the E3 conference building or not. It's still the same thing basically. So it'll still be fun, I think. But there's just something about E3 where, I mean, it's already kind of lost this magic in the last couple of years, I guess. But like, this is mean spirited, but the cringy stuff and like the disasters that happen there. Although like Ubisoft has kept up the tradition really well, but like, there's just something about
their
E3,
brand,
man.
Well, before I remember getting Nintendo Power magazines back years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how you found out about the new Nintendo games, because you can't watch videos of E3 really.
Yeah.
And so that's how E3 had like this gravitas to it that you didn't have access to it, and some people did, and they were going to give you the scoop. Now you can watch it yourself and see, oh, these are actual people, and
Yeah, you can watch it in
they're
your
not all
underwear.
that comfortable in front of a crowd. But
Yeah.
they've gotten better. I think there was a transition between being this kind of closed off press thing and then moving to like a not really entertainment, but like a viewing experience, like a
Yeah,
show.
definitely. Like
It's a
that
show.
Konami show in 2000, I want to say it was 2012, where Konami had like a really small little conference, like in a tiny thing with like in front of maybe 100 people, and that's where all those videos came out of. What's his name? The guy. Oh
Crab
God,
Cat.
what is his name with the? He's got the big hair and he doesn't speak very good English, but he like tries to like hype up the crowd and stuff. God, I can't remember his name. Someone in chat will say it. But that's where all those came from. Where like you do massive damage to the giant enemy crab and all that shit.
And then
that was like the ultimate
last
transition
year,
period.
there's the
Yes,
clapping
last year.
head at Square Enix.
Oh, the Square
was
Enix
funny.
was good. Square Enix kind of touched on that feeling of that Konami press conference had of like it's this small scale thing where it's like they don't know what they're doing, do they? And then
Soon,
Ubisoft tried so hard to make theirs like so cool and failed so miserably. Oh, it was when they
Soon, if
interviewed that
not already.
cosplayer and he said that he was paid to be there.
soon,
it.
if not already, we're gonna have to start getting conspiratorial. That and ask, are they being this embarrassing on purpose so we'll talk about it, or
Oh,
is it accidental?
that's a good question to ask, but I think so far it's been
I'm not.
purely accidental.
I agree, but and I don't think anybody's gonna go up on stage and be embarrassing on purpose. But I figured that if you're the Ubisoft PR guy who's like 2 levels above setting up the E3 conference, and you're making some big picture decisions, and these embarrassing gaffes are just getting you more press, do you really have an incentive to right the ship?
Yeah, no, you're right, and they have monopolized on some of that stuff, like someone in chat mentioned Girlwood.
Yeah, I can always
hashtag
trust.
Girlwood. My body is ready. That kind of thing. Like they've capitalized on that.
I can always trust that Ubisoft's conference will be funny bad. Like
Yeah.
it's been that way every year. It's something to look forward to.
And I think that's a very good prediction to make. I think that they at some point will try to be maybe not cringy, but like
And that'll be the end.
yeah, that'll be the end of the fun. You've heard my conspiracy theory about EA and their sports games.
No.
I have a conspiracy theory, and I honestly believe this to be true, that EA intentionally puts glitches into their sports games, specifically with like the most specific case, the one that started this theory for me was I think it was one of the NFL games, one of the Madden games, where there was a glitch that a lot of people were getting of one of the players randomly on the field being tiny. Did you see that? Like he was like a foot tall.
No. But sure.
But yeah, that's a thing that happened to a lot of people. And one day on Twitter, I mean, it just exploded all over the internet. It exploded. There were all these GIFs and stuff of these tiny football players, and it was funny, but it seemed too perfect to me to be real. Like it was like, really, there's a glitch that randomly one of your players becomes tiny. Like, how does that happen? It doesn't make any sense. I'm not a programmer, but that seems like something that you could easily intentionally implement into your game because you know it's going to create buzz. And it doesn't make the game look bad. I mean, it's a minor glitch that doesn't happen that often, but it draws attention to the game itself. That's my conspiracy theory, and I think that they did do that. That one in particular, I think they did on purpose. So there you go.
Maybe. I guess there'd be no way to know.
No, not really, unless you like got into the game code and like found like a very obviously like written in thing, but yeah.
But even if
even if it was
if that was true,
chose to left it in maybe.
If that was true, I would have no problem with it, because I think I always love good glitches, even not just glitches that happen accidentally. But there's this YouTube channel called Really 3D that I like. I just like really stupid, primitive 3D animation that goes wrong and isn't great.
There's a whole genre
because nothing looks weirder than like badly constructed 3D
Yes.
models trying to move improperly. Like that's great. It's fun to watch. So yeah, I don't really care. I guess.
I guess I don't really. It ruins
I think
the
it's
magic for me.
I
Though.
think
Like,
it's more than likely though that that if you're making yearly entries of FIFA and all that matters is that the player card shop works right, I think there's lots of corner cutting with the game substance. I think it's
in the case of FIFA, I don't feel like most of that is necessarily intentional, although some of it might be intentionally untouched. Like this isn't really a problem we need to
yeah,
fix.
okay,
People
yeah,
like it,
I can
so
see
it's not a
that.
big
I can see
deal.
them being aware of stuff like that and not
Yeah,
fixing it.
they're
on
definitely
purpose.
aware of it. But yeah, maybe it's a case of them just not figuring it's worth fixing because it's not a big deal, or maybe it's something where they figure like, well, actually, like people like this aspect of our games.
It
Like they
could be a little
legitimately enjoy
column
them.
A and column B.
Yeah,
They are aware and choose not to fix it because it's fine.
but the little NFL man felt manufactured 100%.
But even that I can believe because I can picture that there's some kind of number in the code that sets how big the player is based on their actual statistics, and then that gets fucked up somehow or overflows
Maybe.
or something. Maybe. Who knows? It's an
But
interesting
that's my
conspiracy theory.
And there's I'm the same way. I love those glitches. I love the you've seen the Ascension of the Jackdaw, the Assassin's Creed 4 glitch where for some reason the pirate ship doesn't appear at the dock, and so there's just this gaping hole in the sea, and all the pirates spawned in, but the ship didn't, and so they're drowning in this hole, just floating in the air, and then they die, and they start floating up as if they're going to heaven, and then the ship rises out of the hole.
I see it.
That one felt actually real. Like I buy that one. I don't think someone manufactured that one, and that was so perfect. That's one of the best glitches of all time. You need to look up that video. So yeah, it would just suck if you found out. Well, yeah, someone actually did that on purpose, made the game do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. Who cares?
Okay, what's this GameStop thing?
I don't know too much about this one. I just kind of saw a headline before we came on and said, "Oh, that's relevant." GameStop is trying to become a publisher, or has become a publisher officially, of at least one game or one developer.
Really?
They already, I think, have a digital distribution platform apparently, and so they're trying to go the Steam or Origin route of well, we have this platform and we're going to develop games for it, and it'll be exclusive to our platform, and hopefully it'll draw users in or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. GameStop is trying a lot of things to stay, a thing.
They're feeling it.
Yeah.
Though, I don't think they're gonna outright die.
No, I mean, I think they'll successfully transition to a smaller, but still, maybe not successful, but just kind of a thing. They'll stick around. They'll find a niche somewhere. They're doing I think the used game stuff. If they handle that right, they could turn that into a legit thing. But used games, as far as old games that are still physical and that you can't get digitally, they've officially made a site that you can sell and buy those on, and I could see that becoming a thing that people actually use ongoing. So whatever, we'll see.
Okay, this is what's in our show notes because you guys can't see this. This is what Skippy wrote. Rocket League 9gag. Okay.
Rocket League has an update, and you can get a flag that has 9gag on it.
Finally.
It's what we've all been waiting for.
The Reddit flag was already in there. I supported that
Reddit antenna
for a while.
Yes.
Yep. And then now we've got
we've got 9gag. We've gone full circle. Yeah. So good for Rocket League. That's all I have to say about it.
Are we gonna get iFunny there too and have a trinity?
I hope so. You could have a 3-person team with one for each, representing each wonderful internet gag. All right.
Yeah,
I saw you tweeting about this.
So
talk about Matt.
I don't know if you guys know who Matt MVS is, but
I think you've talked about him before.
I have. But Matt MVS is a delusional composer with mental illnesses who, God, he makes Zelda music that's not really music. He's famous for it, re, it, re. That's his
Good
Zelda
video.
composition. It's a really good video. But when you start to watch more of his videos, you realize it's totally serious. And he has hundreds and hundreds of videos like this. And
It could
So-
be fake.
no,
It could be.
no. I could tell you everything I know. No, it's not. In fact, you know
You
what?
thought Jason Connors was
Okay,
real.
this
You thought Jace Connors was real.
I did, and so did everyone.
I didn't.
Well, because you didn't know.
That's
You
true.
did-
I didn't know.
Exactly.
But still.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is nowhere near like that. For starters, he doesn't actively seek the public eye at all. Jace Connors did live streams, and he'd had people call in, and they'd show dicks, and he'd get mad back at people. He doesn't do any of that. Like, it barely registers that he's even seeing comments, except when he replies to one once in a while. And he has these super long speeches about the nature of good and bad and the scientific transcending spirit of good and bad. It's nuts. He wrote a book that he had like a text-to-speech thing read out, and it was just all nonsense, an hour. But yeah,
But like someone like Rocco Bodie could easily
No.
make a character like that and
No.
and dedicate themselves to it. I could see it happening.
So here's what spurred this on. So he made a series of, they're not really videos. They're just text on a black screen
I saw one of the videos.
in a video
yeah.
format. And there's 4 of them talking about him giving up composing and something about pleasure highs and transcending, just the typical Mad MVS language that he uses. And then he's basically saying this is like, all the afterlife is all I've got now, that I'm going to kill myself, basically. And, we were telling him and I was trying to get people to just comment that to him also. Just don't do that,
Yep.
And he replied back, and it was all incoherent, something about me being a transcending psychotic killer guy. And then he goes dark for like a week, and we think he actually did it. And then he shows up again, and he didn't.
Is he still making videos?
Well, he said that he's making a new channel that he's only going to post on once he becomes a perfect transcending composer. And he talked about his Super Saiyan composing form. But anyway, while I thought he was dead, this is why I think it's totally real. While I thought he was dead, I did a lot of research. And
You
what
really you felt terrible about this.
I did.
I could tell it was
because it's
it hit you
horrible.
hard.
Because
it is horrible.
to see someone who's genuinely mentally ill
Yeah.
losing their minds and killing themselves, and all you can do is watch.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks. But I research his username, and I find a couple of things. He's posted alternatively as MattMVS7. That's his
You're
main...
doxing him right now.
No, that's his username. And then Mozart Link. Like Zelda Link.
Yeah,
as a
I get it.
composer. That's his Reddit account. But he mostly posts under MattMVS7. And he has posted to basically every forum you can possibly imagine. Like atheist debate forums and like gaming forums. And I saw one on Grass City, which is a weed forum
Oh, okay.
for people to discuss marijuana and weed culture. And he made a completely unrelated thread there about his pleasure highs and his composing and shit. And he writes these posts that are the longest things that you will ever read. And they're not copy-pasted. He types them all out. They're different on each of these forums.
Oh my
But
God.
it's like 10,000 words per post. And he posts like 20 times in each thread. And it's all nonsense that just is a salad of words and like pleasure highs and transcending, and it's genuine insanity that if someone were to dedicate themselves to trolling this much, then that person would actually really be
Actually
insane.
insane. Yeah, sure.
But I'm inclined to believe him, because he's even outright said I have autism and schizophrenia.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's what you
That
can
is
find
weird.
if you
The
go
internet's
looking.
a weird place.
If you start digging, find an obscure account that you know of and just start doing some minimal digging, and you'll probably find some weird stuff.
I'm glad to know how you spent your week.
It's just weird. I
can't
did
say
learn.
that's
I
any
did
less
learn.
valuable than
I
watching
learned his.
wrestling, so.
I'm not going to dox him, but I did learn his age and location and birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. You're
So
like
I'll make sure to wish him a happy
You're like
birthday next year.
anonymous.
Yeah, I am anonymous. I am 9gag. Okay.
That's all we have for this
We're
week,
done.
folks. We're done. I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast. We're going to be here at the same time next week. The same time.
Yes,
And-
9 Eastern, 8 Central.
And we'll hopefully I will get around to posting it on the site as well. Which is still broken, by the way. We need to figure that out. Anyway,
What the fuck happened? Okay.
I don't know.
Adios, everybody.
Adios, everyone. Goodbye. Have a good night and